You're listening to the AFTERBUZZ TV Network, now the largest new media platform on the web, and your number one source for after-show entertainment.
Very good, Gene. Johnson.
From the AFTERBUZZ Studios in Los Angeles, California, presented by Maria Menounos and streaming live thanks to Akamai Technologies, this is AFTERBUZZ TV's Rush After Show. We'll break down tonight's episode and get you all the latest news and gossip. And now, another post-game wrap-up show for your favorite TV show. It's AFTERBUZZ TV's Rush After Show.
I love this one.
As does
Classic.
Rush. He's a big fan.
Hello, everyone. Thank you for joining us at AFTERBUZZ TV, and this is the Rush After Show, our second one. I'm your host, Yvonne Maisonette, and I'm here with
JB Zimmerman. Happy to be back for episode 2.
And I'll have to say, episode 2 is just as exciting, right?
Yeah, I actually thought it ramped it up a little bit.
It did.
Mean, because the first episode is of any series when it premieres, is sort of setting up everything. We are introduced to all the characters. This sort of jumped into the action a lot faster.
Yeah, like right away we kind of got to, it starts unraveling like some of the questions we had right away, like we know Rush's dad. There's something going on.
Exactly. They foreshadowed that a few times. So, looking forward to that unraveling. A lot more drug use, too.
Yes. And, okay, so it starts, and we know that Rush has had quite a weekend. He doesn't
completely
remember
blacked out.
it.
Completely blacked out.
He does not know where he's been. Eve was looking for him, and she doesn't know where he's been. So this weekend, we don't know. We kind of get a hint at the end of the show where, but we still don't know what went on. So that throughout the show is kind of something interesting because it keeps popping up.
Right, he's sort of picking up the pieces as he goes on because he remembers absolutely nothing.
Yeah.
He just woke up in his car.
And a couple times
very
he has
hungover.
Girls coming up to him like, whoa, what a weekend. And he's like, I do not know.
Just interesting. Okay, go on.
So I guess we will start with Burke because, in the last episode, he stole the blood to help Rush when Raul, who was the drug dealer, had a friend who was shot. And so now, Burke, being the stand-up guy that he is, he's stressing over, we got to replace that blood. And then he goes to Rush and says, you need to call your dad. So this is kind of the first time we're hearing about the dad being involved at all, Rush's dad, right?
Right.
And so he's like, call your dad to fix this. Your dad can fix it. And Rush says, no. He's like, no, I got this. I saved the serial numbers, or he saved the tags to the blood. So he's like, don't worry, I got you covered. Right.
He thought this through. He put his friend Alex in the position of needing to steal blood from basically this hospital, which is apparently a pretty huge fine. I don't know how severe the punishment is, but it sounds pretty serious.
It seems like that would end his career if you, right?
Right? I mean, yeah, they're for doctors. I mean, they're held at such high, everything that they do is such an important thing. I mean, when you deal with someone's health, it's life and death. I mean, they need to be held to a higher standard.
Yeah, and ethics are everything. So there is no room for that kind of stuff. So I think if it turns out he did it, that would be it, license done. I mean, I would be, whatever. That's
right.
So it's a big deal. Rush is like, I got it. So what does he do? He sends Burke, to a shady blood bank.
Yeah, which apparently doesn't even charge. They just gave that bag for free.
And I think it was because Rush must
put
come
in a
and
good
go
word,
frequently.
for sure.
Because so Burke goes in, he's like, gets the blood. He's like, is this blood clean? And she's like, yeah, don't worry. We clean it and we test it And then she's like, do you need anything else? Drugs, passports, pills. So when he's like, do I have to pay you? And she's like, no, it's probably because Rush comes in there for all kinds of stuff, right?
Yeah, I think he's got a tab recurring at that place. Sounds like it's his go-to for a lot of things. Yeah. I mean, they seem sort of very shady about everything, but luckily they're being clean. And safe.
They're saying it's clean, but that's another thing, but we'll get to that, I guess, with predictions.
Right.
And also, Rush is feeling bad about how he behaved with Sarah. So
exactly, he definitely regrets taking the phone call, which obviously led him to the scenario with the gangsters and the gunshot and having to deal with that. So I mean, it's sort of a regret thing. I feel like he holds just in general with Sarah.
Right.
I mean, all of the mistakes he's made, but it's sort of focused in this one last one where it's like he had another shot, and again he
bailed
fumbled
on her.
it. Yeah,
he bailed on her, and it's kind of, I guess, what he does all the time. And I kind of think he was apologizing, but also she confessed to him, like they were they were intimate last episode, and then she said she had like the cancer gene. And he's like, oh, and then he takes the call and bails. So that's pretty intense, right? That was like a moment for her.
Definitely not the place to bail.
He shouldn't bail. Like,
yeah, he should not have left it at all. But I mean, after she just let on that she's in a very vulnerable place,
he's like,
it's like, I need you right now. I just, well, hold that thought. Let me take this call.
And now I gotta go.
Gotta go. Sorry.
So
I'll be back later.
He calls her and he apologizes, and it's sincere. And he's supposed to be leaving her alone, but of course.
Right. I mean, LA is big. It's not that big.
Yeah.
I'm sure we're going to have them cross paths soon.
Intentionally, because I think he's going to track her down, because I think he's obsessed with her. That's the one girl he loves,
Exactly. Although, I feel like, I mean, we touched on this a little bit in predictions last time with his relationship with his assistant. I feel like with this episode, it seemed like they were sort of foreshadowing a little relationship with them.
You know what I feel with those two, though? I must say, I think Eve is in love with him. I think he sees her as a little sister, and that's the one girl he's not going to touch. Even if she wanted it, I was watching, I was like, he's going to treat her like a little sister, and she's in love with him. Do you think that's...
I was definitely, it seems like she, for some reason, is in love with him, or something. Like, there has to be something driving her, because he's, for lack of a better word, he's a dick.
He's a dick, but he's handsome, and not all good girls, but sometimes good girls love bad boys, or just women in general.
Right.
He's bad and
true.
Yeah,
no, I was talking to my girlfriend about this, and I was like, do you find him attractive? Like, what is it about Rush that's so alluring? And she said it's not just, I mean, he is tall and good looking, but it's not like he's Brad Pitt. It's, his personality, and that, like, he is so smart and yet a bad boy. So it's that kind of dichotomy
smart,
of being
dangerous. There's a lot of things there.
Apparently, totally.
I beg to differ with the Brad Pitt comment.
Fair
he
enough.
might just be
To each his
cuter.
own.
Exactly.
Really?
Yes, but I would like to hear what people say about that.
Well, I mean, he's obviously cast for the leading man role because of his looks.
Yeah.
I mean, he's a tall guy. He's British.
Good looking.
Nails that. The American accent, though, pretty well. I haven't seen any parts where that sort of faltered.
He does a great job, and he seems very comfortable in the role.
Right.
So yeah, I enjoy watching him. So moving right along, we have a phone call, and I thought it was pretty funny because Eve gets a phone call from someone at 8 Pillars Gym, and before he can even say anything, he says Charles Barkley referred him. She's like, oh yeah, but did he tell you this? And she runs off all these disclaimers, like
it sounded like one of those commercials for like a non-FDA approved drug, like if this will cause all of this stuff.
We do not
long
sign
disclaimer.
Insurance. What else did she say? She said some pretty funny stuff.
Cash up front, like
no refunds. We don't.
No vasectomy reversals. Like,
we do not do Botox.
Right.
It was pretty funny. And
I mean, for LA, I feel like that's sort of a legitimate disclaimer to say
no
up
Botox,
front.
Emergency.
Yeah.
So I thought it was pretty funny because it's like she's running all of this stuff off, and it's like, okay, so that was pretty funny. And so then he's like, look, I have someone here. I think, was it his brother who did the first call, or his coach? I think it was his brother who called. And he was like, he's bleeding.
Right. Oh, yeah. The boxer's brother.
Yeah.
Of course. Yeah.
Bleeding from the nose, and it won't stop. And at first I'm like, what? Bloody nose, whatever. It seems kind of weird. But when we get there, we see that he is bleeding. Like,
Yeah, it's funny. Actually, as a kid, I used to get bloody noses all the time.
Right.
But I mean, there's a few simple procedures you can just like pinch.
Right.
And I mean, they used to say like a long time, put your head back, but that can be dangerous just because the blood can clot in your throat.
Cause all kind of drama.
Which is no good.
And this guy was bleeding.
But I mean, it's sort of a simple thing a lot of us have dealt with, but it would be scary if it just didn't stop. I mean, a wound that just keeps flowing. I mean, blood to most people is pretty unsightly.
And he's bleeding, and basically they're like, stop. Because at first I'm like, why are they calling him for this bloody nose? But they're like, stop the bloody nose because he needs to fight tonight.
Right.
That's what that was. And so Rush is like, I need a tampon, and then he put some coke on
Yeah,
there.
some medical grade cocaine, of course, the best stuff.
And he shoves it up his nose.
Yeah, I love the MacGyvering of it. I mean, it's fun because it's so like different. Like he's makeshift doctor, but with an edge. It's like not just royal pains where he's like using bungee cords to like tie and put pressure. It's like he's putting cocaine on a tampon to stop like a wound from bleeding. Like
and he's quick. That's the other thing. It's like he has all this stuff like right there. He's very quick. He's like, oh, bloody nose. Okay, cocaine.
Yeah, just got the cocaine. No problems there.
Put some of that.
Yeah.
So that was funny.
With a little coke.
And so he put it up his nose, and he's like, all right, so we're out of here. We're good. And the brother's like, oh, we need you to sign a release. And he's like, oh, I don't do that. I'm not going to sign a release. And so he kind of threatened him, like, he was like, well, I can't sign a release because if something happens to him, my name is on there. And then the brother said that, okay, so we'll tap out first round. He promised him we'll tap out on the first round.
Well, I mean, that was one of the things that I feel like was a good thing for Rush's morality. I mean, he said, like, you know what, he's not fit to fight. Like, I will not sign that. And, sort of they were pulling at him and sort of convinced him, it's going to be okay. He's going to take a dive. Then, I mean, we didn't realize it then, but Rush sort of agreed, I feel like, based on the fact that he was going to turn that around and feed his gambling impulse.
and that I thought that was quite clever because
a smart financial move, of course.
He's always making money because he's like, oh, okay, you'll tap out. And then he calls the ambulance driver and bets $25,000 because now he knows he's going to tap out. And he's sure of it, and he bets because the guy was like $2,500.
Sure thing, lock it down. Yeah.
And he was like, no, not $2,500. I want to bet $25,000. He's going down.
Going down hard.
Yeah. So that was interesting. And then he goes to the bar and watches the fight. And then, I mean, we're kind of skipping around, but I guess we can finish this whole thing.
Right. Yeah. I mean, let's
go
through the storyline a bit.
And turns out he does not tap out. He's at the bar and he looks up and the guy goes, he's like, is that the third round? And he was beating that guy's ass on a third round.
Right, yeah. I mean, he said he was going to tap out before the first. Rush finally realized it's the third, so clearly he didn't make good on that. And it looks like he's winning. He just got on top of the guy, like pounding his face in. Rushes, pun intended.
He's pissed. Because when they made the deal, they're like, hey, we're from Texas. We're good,
like Southern people. Guys. Our word is our bond type of thing.
And he's like,
But complete BS because his brother, it seems like his brother put him up to it and just, was all about the money.
Totally. And so Rush rushes over to when he sees that they lied and they didn't whatever, he rushes over there. And it's funny because at first I'm thinking he's rushing over there because he's pissed because he's lost some money.
Right.
But, he ends up being like, you know what, you made him fight, didn't you?
Right. It was interesting because, I thought he was going to just like beat that guy's ass pretty much. But even though he went there sort of for vengeance, it was a good thing he came because it didn't work out. I mean, like Rush was uncomfortable signing the thing because it wasn't a good idea that he fought. Proved by the boxer passing out, and he had like a blood thing, like swelling in his like internal bleeding.
He's having like a seizure. He's asking the brother, "Can I please see him?" He's like, "He's fine." And then you hear the lady screaming. You go in, and he's on the floor convulsing.
Exactly.
And that was another cool moment for Rush when he.
Yeah, just whips out, just like holds the guy's face while he drills into his skull.
That was funny because I'm like, so you carry skull drills? I mean, you got everything, and it's always close by.
Yeah,
he doesn't have to go digging in his bag.
That's quite a handbag he's carrying around. Quite a weekender.
And he's so calm. So we're like, what is he gonna do? I'm wondering what's he gonna do with the kid's head, and he splits it open and takes a drill and relieves cranial pressure.
Of course. I mean, your average Tuesday night.
That's what you do when, things get tough. So he's funny like that, but he was really upset because the brother was like, yeah, I did we get 50% if we lose, 100% if we win. What do you want? He's like, you pressured your brother. And so then they go to the hospital, and they meet up in the parking lot.
Right, and we see Rush when before he's drilling the guy's head.
Yeah.
Inject him with, he says, a sedative. When they're in the parking lot, there's some words exchanged about what happened, what's going to happen moving forward. Obviously, Rush does not want to be connected to this because it just spiraled out of control. He signed a document saying that he was okay to fight, knowing he wasn't. So he really wants that to be destroyed, the evidence to be gone. And the brother is blackmailing him again.
He's like, give me more money, and maybe then we'll destroy it.
Right.
And then Rush is like, oh, really?
Yeah, just, I am too smart for you.
And he injected the boxer with
a steroid that's obviously banned, as I think most steroids are, if not all of them.
And he did this while he was convulsing on the floor when he sawed his brain open. Remember, he gave him that
Very
shot.
quick thinker. On the fly. I like it.
He's smooth. He's a bit of a criminal.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, that's what makes him so compelling, is because I feel like he knows how the criminal thinks, and so he sort of anticipates the worst happening. It's like he knows that they will do this because it's something he would do almost.
Yeah, he's a step ahead. He's basically a step ahead of most of the time of everyone.
Exactly.
And speaking about a step ahead, Mr. Bloom, I don't know, you guys remember him. He's the guy who had the broken dick.
How could we forget?
Can't forget him. And Raul, the thug, the lead thug, stole the painting last episode. And so Mr. Bloom comes back and he wants his painting. And this time he comes back and he
with the reinforcements.
Yeah, with bodyguards and takes Rush in the car and brings him to Raul, makes him, or they figure out where Raul lives. And so Rush shows up with Dr. Bloom or Mr. Bloom and 3 or 4 bodyguards and tries to bully him, Raul, into giving the painting back. And they go into into his house. And so is that unexpected for you? Because, I didn't know Mr. Bloom had it in him.
Yeah, I mean, I didn't actually expect to see him again. And actually, the whole thing sort of caught me by surprise because first I didn't expect to see him, and then when he was sort of strong-arming him, he had the bodyguards abduct him basically. And when they got to the barbecue, they sort of took a back seat. They came in so aggressive, and then when the gangsters sort of choke grabbed him, he sort of backed off and was just like, oh God, oh, no. You can have whatever you want.
That was really quite funny, actually.
Yeah, I mean, I wanted that because he's such a sort of a bad character villain type. I mean, he didn't pay when he promised he would, so I feel like he shouldn't get the upper hand.
Yeah, and it was kind of funny because Rush was there and Raul was like, why'd you bring him here? He's like, yo, I had no choice. And he's eating in the background.
Yeah, just eating chips. Just sorry,
he's kind of eating, and then it gets heated and he's trying to choke him out and he's like, wait. And so then it ends up that Dr. Bloom, I keep calling him Doctor, the Bloom guy.
Right, I think he's a TV or movie producer.
He's a producer. He's Mr. Bloom.
Yeah.
They just call him Bloom, whatever, right?
Right.
He was like, he ends up buying the painting back from Raul for $200,000.
Right, which is supposedly twice what it's worth.
Yes.
We find out later after Rush says, yeah, that's a terrible deal. You're an idiot.
Yeah. You just
turns
doubled.
out, yeah, exactly. You just paid twice as much for your own painting back. Turns out he was a little bit smart. The artist who painted it died the weekend previous, so it's obviously worth a lot more. $650,000, I believe.
$650,000, and so basically the painting is 3 times more worth, or 4, because it was only $100,000 before.
Right, yeah, it's actually
6 times more.
6.5 times.
So I thought that was pretty funny, and he was like, Rush was like, you're an idiot. You just paid $200,000 for a $100,000 painting. He was like, no, it's worth $650,000. Kind of like suckers.
Right. Yeah, just do your research.
Whatever. That's why people stay poor. That's what he said. Yeah. It was really funny. So that was the way Bloom left it. So I thought that was pretty cool. And
yeah, I was okay with it. I really think if he does come back, which I hope he does. I really want him. This could be way down the line in the season. I really want him to get the brunt end of the stick somehow.
Right, somehow.
Yeah. I sort of like these small victories for him. It's kind of funny. He's just an interesting character. short little bald
Yeah.
guy. But yeah, I really want him to lose in the end.
I think he might. There's more obvious. Well,
Right.
we don't know, but I kind of think there's room for more with him.
Right. I mean, I feel like they're establishing a lot of the characters to sort of create this world that Rush, sort of.
And there's options. So for the writers, they're creating options.
Right.
They're leaving everything so that they can kind of go wherever, they want with whichever character.
Exactly.
So,
yeah, we got a few new characters, like Isabel, for example, a new patient that he visited. She's sort of a
life coach.
Yeah, a life coach, pseudo psychiatrist type of thing, therapist.
And Eve suggests he go see her.
Right.
Because she has a cut.
Yeah, she cut her hand opening a bottle of wine.
Yeah.
Classic.
Right?
Classic.
Only in LA.
Yeah.
And then you have this doctor come, and she tries to convince him to talk to her, and he's like, I don't need a therapist. She's like, I'm not a therapist, I'm a life coach. And she actually wears him down, and he just tells her a tiny bit about how he disappointed someone he loves. And then she says something that's a bit of a stinger for him, and I don't think he liked it, but she's like, you disappoint because you feel like you have to be a disappointment.
Right. Yeah, no, I liked her as a character. I mean, she had a great accent, very alluring. I mean, you could cut the tension with a spoon.
Totally.
In the beginning. And, it was interesting that was her injury. I feel like since she is such a smart character, maybe something more of an accident. It seemed like such a housewifey.
Right.
Oh, I cut my hand on.
And it was
on
a deep cut.
bottle.
It wasn't like a little.
Right. She needed stitches.
Yeah, and it was like when you looked at it, it was nasty. It wasn't like a cute little something.
Yeah, definitely more of a gash than anything else. But I was very intrigued with her character and sort of where that would go. She is the first one that sort of delved into Rush as like a human.
Yeah, and someone disappointed you, and you feel like you're a disappointment. That was important. That's all she said. She didn't say anything else, and he left. And then he came back later just to tell her, you don't know me, you don't know anything about me. And you're not
and you're
a
wrong.
Good therapist.
Yeah.
And then he drove away.
Take that.
Yeah, and she just stood there and took it, and I was like, oh,
Right.
So he had been
he was
thinking
definitely
about it.
feeling it. Yeah, he was affected. I mean, she's sort of the first person, aside from Sarah, that really got into his head. I feel like. I mean, he's so smart, so above everybody else in the show. It was great to see sort of an equal match.
Yeah.
Kind of.
And it turns out as the show progresses, they are kind of a match intellectually as well. Which is, I guess we'll save that for when we get there. But
yes.
but I would just want to go back a little because, Eve, he was missing for the 3 days, and then Eve gets him, and his car breaks down. This is in the beginning of the show. His car breaks down, and he has Eve go and...
he's got to drive the Prius around.
He has to drive her Prius while she gets his car fixed, and he wants an iPod installed. Was there?
Yeah, that's another weird thing about the show. Just because I associate and like the medical world with sort of high technology.
Right.
I mean, I feel like they're all smart. They should be at the forefront of what's
all of that
out there, and new technological methods and medical treatments. It's so weird that he's so old school and just almost not tech savvy at all.
It is kind of funny. With everything else, he's there, but when it comes to
he's
his
still
car,
on CDs.
It's very funny.
He can't they made a joke. Eve, I think, even after they had that whole "I'm getting an iPod" talk. It's like you can't even handle the current
so
generation
I'm not even
of
gonna give
iPods.
you that.
Yeah.
You're gonna get a tape because
you're gonna start at generation 1 with a tape deck.
And the guy loves
connected.
80s music. He's a dork in some ways. He's cool, and that's like maybe his little corny side, and which is kind of cute. But when she goes to get his car fixed, he talks to Manny. Manny owes him forever. The drug dealer, his friend. It's like, you owe me forever. He's like,
just don't even think about charging me.
Yeah.
Just put it in the car.
Put it in the car because the car shop is owned by Manny's friend. So he sends his assistant to get the car fixed, and he tells Manny just drop the drugs in there. So Eve knows that's his drug dealer, and she's like, he's kind of not in a good way right now, and don't give him the drugs. She said something like that, and he's like, he runs on drugs and sex, so he just has to have it because he's indestructible. That's what Manny said.
Yeah, which is, I think, a foreshadowing of that not coming true. I mean, he is so on his game all the time with those things, but it's sort of like a crutch.
Yeah.
Like, he depends on that getting him through. I mean, he sort of hit a breakdown, and that's, I think, why he went to Isabel. I mean, we saw when his car wasn't going to be fixed until the next day. He saw the note.
He's without his drugs.
Yeah, and so he can't get his drugs. He sort of like had a meltdown. He's like, this is not, I can't continue.
Yeah, and then that's actually when he goes down to the bar and finds out about the fight being lost, right?
Exactly.
And he runs into another girl who's like, oh, great weekend, you know, and
finds
he's like,
the Cinderella with the shoe.
the girl with the shoe, because, you know, in the beginning, one girl,
or one of them, at
he's
least.
like, oh, do I have your shoe? And she's like, no, try Candace. And then, you know, so
we meet Candace.
Yeah. And he tries to invite her upstairs, and she's not having it, she says, no, I have somewhere to be. Keep the shoe. Because he's like, why don't you come get the shoe at my place?
Right. Just denied again.
And then he ends up going over to Isabel again.
Yes. I mean, I think that's his weakness. I mean, he it's almost like sex addiction is sort of similar, where it's you know, almost a drug. And so he's fiending for some type of companionship.
Yeah, and so he couldn't find it with that girl, and then he goes to Isabel with a nice bottle of wine, and they have sex. And then as they're talking, there are some similarities. She went to Yale, and she used to be in traditional medicine, and then something happened. She slept with a client, so now she's doing similar to what he's doing.
A female client. I did not see that coming.
Spicy.
Yeah, absolutely. So I hope that she actually has a bigger role coming forward, or comes back in some way. I mean, maybe they don't end up together, but she's a lot more on par with him intellectually than previously thought.
I think so. And I also think because she's a little bit older and she's on par with him intellectually, that maybe she will be that woman who has power over him.
Right.
You know, like he's in love with Sarah, but it's a sweet kind of, you know, I don't know, not innocent love, but like he truly loves her. But then this woman may control him. You never know, because she's got some, it seems like it's possible.
Exactly. And it seems like where Rush is now is not good for Sarah. I mean, she's really trying to do her thing. I believe she's going back to school. And so he's not a good influence.
He's trouble
on her.
for her.
Right.
But for Isabel, she can handle him. That's what it looks like. Isabel can handle Rush, and there's not many women who can, but it looks like she can handle him, and she's not going to be fazed by him so much.
Right. Well, we find out a little bit about his dad, and he said, you know, I didn't want to talk about it. She was right there, like you were saying, sort of can handle him, and doesn't make it awkward, just knows how to sort of control Rush. I mean, turns it back to around. But we get these little pieces, these little chunks of what is Rush's problem. Like, why is he the way he is?
Yeah, and we're going to have to, I think we should stop and do a little news and gossip, but we also have to talk about his dad, because that's slowly unfolding.
Yes, that is slowly unfolding. I mean, with everything that went down with Alex and the blood, he tried to put it back. It didn't really work. He was really nervous, spent too much time probably in there, got out, was seen, and sort of cracked.
Yes.
Interesting. His character sort of reminds me of like a Carlton Banks. It's so like by the book, can't tell a lie.
Yeah. Like, because I guess we'll just go ahead and go into it. But the blood, he tries to take the blood back. He gets the blood, he tries to take it back, he makes it in. He's coming out, and he's busted. Someone's like, what are you doing in there? Because I guess you shouldn't be in there for any reason. And turns out he tells him. And when he says he tells him, did he tell him the whole thing? We don't know that.
Yeah, I definitely don't think he did everything. But he told enough where it was like, yeah, I put the blood there.
Yeah, hopefully he told him. But maybe he's just
he told him
Rush
enough to get suspended, because he does reveal that.
And so Rush finally, he meets Rush in the parking lot. He's like, what are you doing out here? Rush is like, what are you doing out here? He's like, well, I've been suspended. And he's like, what? And he's like, well, I'm putting it back. I was putting the blood back and I got caught. And Rush is like, that's the easiest thing, is putting it back. And anyways, long story short, Rush is like, I'll call my dad.
Right.
And that's a big step, because we know he does not want to call his dad.
Right.
But he's not going to let his best friend go down, and getting suspended. That's serious when you're a doctor. Getting suspended means you can lose your license.
Yeah, I mean, he faced that a few times in this episode, where it was on the cusp, like very, like flirting with that happening.
With disaster, because this is a good guy with family. He keeps saying, I got a wife and kid, you know.
Yeah, and he's got like a job at the hospital, so it's not just a freelance thing where he can just find a new client or a new celeb.
He's not like Rush. He's not,
exactly.
Right. He's got to keep his job, and Rush is more on the cuff. So he says he's going to call his dad, so that's going to unfold, I guess, coming up. So I think that's really interesting. And now we're going to do news and gossip.
Sounds good.
AfterBuzz TV News.
Okay, so we have the first thing I think we should do is because last week we told everybody about Tom Ellis a little bit. So this week I thought it'd be nice to talk a little bit about Lorenz Tate because he's been around, but lately it's like he's blowing up again.
Right.
And there is a rumor that he might replace Columbus Short, who was kicked off. He played Jackson.
Of course.
He may be replacing him.
Ooh.
So that's kind of exciting, and I'd like to see if that happens. And he's been doing a couple interviews, and usually when you do interviews, doesn't that mean like pretty much?
I mean it's in the workings.
It's in the works, and so that's the buzz. And so I kind of think that that's a maybe just because he's talking about it going from station to station.
I mean if you're public about it at all, I mean these people have so many PR people training them to like what to say. I mean obviously they're real people too, so they can make slip ups. But in general, when stuff like this is happening, it is in the final stages.
I think so. And Shonda Rhimes likes to keep people on their toes, and she likes to do moves like this. So I kind of think this is going to happen, but we'll just wait and see.
Right.
And then a couple other, well, it's really only two other things. There's some cute selfies of Tom and Odette, who plays Sarah, taking selfies on Twitter. So if you want to see some cute, funny selfies. And the other thing is that Rush, the character, loves the 80s, the trashy 80s music, and they call it schlock pop. I guess that's the corny 80s stuff. But it turns out that Tom likes it too. And he mentioned Debbie Gibson. I don't know if you know Debbie Gibson, pretty 80s, pretty funny. And Katrina and the Waves. And he said that when he heard that Rush had to love that music, wasn't very hard for him. He just went in his iPod and made a playlist.
Not a problem in the least.
I thought that was really kind of funny. So that's something he has in common with his character.
Yeah, I wonder if he listens to CDs as well.
Yeah, we need to find out. We need to get him in here and get an interview and find out. Do you
everybody
listen to
out
CDs?
there, tweet Tom Ellis.
Tweet him and see if he'll...
what his sound system is in his car.
Tell him he has to come in here and tell everybody. And also make sure to, watch us, listen to us on iTunes, and comment and let us know what you guys think, because, I'm loving it.
Yeah, I mean, it's a great way to promote the show and support the free content. We love not charging you.
Yes.
So if you guys want to keep it going, please help support the show by rating it on iTunes and commenting on YouTube.
Definitely. So just to wrap things up, we have Rush promising to call his dad. What else? And I think that's for as far as like predictions go. Do you think we're ready for predictions?
I think we're ready.
Okay.
And now, your AfterBuzz TV predictions.
So, I guess for me, I feel like the father next episode is going to be Rush's dad. And I don't know if it's a spoiler because I did read about it, but I do know that his dad's a doctor. And so I think it's going to be very interesting to find out like the whole backstory of how, because, during this episode, Rush does mention that his dad betrayed him. Or sold him out or something.
That was interesting. He said, "My dad screwed me." So I mean, it was kind of a weird moment where, in the context, like I don't think he meant anything crazy like molestation or anything.
No. Hopefully,
but it was just an interesting choice of words where his interactions with Alex definitely seemed like he was in the industry, probably a head guy. But I'm wondering like how he could have screwed him over, just because that's not obviously a normal thing for a parent to do, but in general, it's not like he didn't love me or he wasn't there. He like left. It's like it made it seem like he actively chose to sabotage almost Rush. So I'm very curious on how that plays out.
Because I'm thinking, well, maybe he was trying to teach his son a lesson. Who knows? Maybe his son was acting wild and he was like, look, this is the medical business. I mean, I'm just guessing here. It's pure conjecture. But I'm thinking that maybe that's what it was. He's like, no, you did it and you're out, or maybe, who knows? But that would be really interesting. And then I want to know what Burke told the doctor who saw him. I don't think he told him the truth.
I can't believe he told him anything. But yeah, I think he said, he's like, hand in the cookie jar. I borrowed some blood and I replaced it.
Yeah, that's what I think. And because he can't tell. He can't say, I borrowed blood, took it out.
Yeah, I definitely do not think he threw Rush under the bus at all.
No.
I think he kept that to himself and just sort of took it on the chin.
Something smaller, and maybe he told Rush because he wants Rush to call his dad.
Right.
So he's like, I told him the truth, and I'm gonna. Who knows? There might be some manipulating going on there with him.
Interesting. Yeah. No, I didn't think about that. I mean, it's possible. I think he's just a goody two shoes and can't tell a lie.
Really?
But I mean, to his credit, he's got a family to think about. It's not just Rush like living a college kid's lifestyle, partying all the time.
Right.
You know, being promiscuous with women. It's like he's an adult. Like you can't. At a certain point in time, Rush is going to have to grow up, and I think that could be a sort of small motivation for Alex to have mentioned, set it up for him to reach out to his dad.
Yeah. So, next week, you guys, we look forward to seeing, I think it's going to be an exciting episode. And make sure to, comment, let us know what you think about the show. And we'll see you guys next week.
Yeah, where can they find it?
You can find me at entertainmentcrush.com and at Maisonette on Twitter. And
nice. You guys can find me at JB_Zimmerman on Twitter and Instagram.
All right, take care.
From executive producers Maria Menounos, Kevin Undergaro, Phil Svitek, and the entire AfterBuzz TV staff, we would like to thank you for listening to the AfterBuzz TV network. To watch or listen to other after shows and post comments or questions, be sure to visit AfterBuzzTV.com. I'm Sir Richard Wentworth, and this has been a presentation of AfterBuzz TV.
Buzz you later.
The views expressed herein are those of the hosts only and do not necessarily reflect the views of AfterBuzz TV or its owners or principals.
Thank you for watching AfterBuzz TV on YouTube. For more of your favorite after shows and interviews, subscribe to our channel here, and be sure to share your opinion on the episode in the comment section below here. We'd love to see what you guys are buzzing about. Thanks again. Buzz you later.